They had some moments where players could step up, but there wasn't anyone consistently enough that they could build the team on throughout the entire season, and other teams preyed on that.
NWSL in the offseason, it is meant and built for trades and signings, hirings and firings, and we've seen that a lot. But each individual NWSL club, they have to bulk up. This week, today, we are talking about Seattle Reign. They finished second to last year in the NWSL in the 13th spot, 23 points, just 6 wins, 5 draws, and 15 L's for Seattle. They had a goal differential of -17. The biggest loss that they faced in the middle of the season was losing defender Sofia Huerta. She went on loan to Lyon. So far in this offseason, Seattle has signed free agent defender after her rookie season with Angel City, Madison Curry. She's signed through 2027. They've also waived forward Mackenzie Weinert. She is currently on loan with Spokane FC in the USL Super League through December, and they've waived her. But there's a lot of players right now at Seattle that are still available for free agency, and they haven't re-signed. Some of the big ones include a lot of midfielders: Olivia Athens, Maddie Mercado, Quinn, Nikki Stanton, defender Lou Barnes, forward Z King, and then a couple goalkeepers in Laurel Ivory and Maya Perez. But Darian, when you think about Seattle in 2024, this past season, and they struggled to get above the table, to put string games together and have confidence, but what was their biggest Achilles heel last year?
Let me pick
Welcome
one.
back. We're asking you the hard questions first.
Jumping right in. No, I'm happy to answer this because Seattle, it's frustrating when you look at their roster. I'm going through all of the players right now. They don't have a bad team. They have a very talented team. But if you look at 2023 to 2024, they're missing those it factor players, those players that help define your style of play. Seattle was still playing like a style of play like they had Megan Rapinoe on their team, to be quite honest. They were trying to send crosses into the box. They were looking for wingers to make everything happen, but they were really missing that X factor player. They're Rose Lavelle, another player who can completely change a team, completely change a game, regardless of who she's playing with. And they just don't have that. And I don't know if it's that they didn't have room on their roster or money to afford those type of players anymore, because they do have a lot of players. When you look at all of these players, especially that are free agents, a lot of them fit into sort of a very similar caliber player. But who's going to go be that 1v1 artist that can break any defender down, that you're going to key in on, that's going to open up other players when a team is so focused on that player? They don't necessarily have that anymore. And that is something that they really need to change. And that's why I think they struggled so much this last season, is they played very predictable. G was really putting the team on her back. Jess Fishlock was putting the team on her back. And they had some moments where players could step up, but there wasn't anyone consistently enough that they could build the team on throughout the entire season. And other teams preyed on that.
Sandra, when you think about this Seattle team, what do they need in this offseason? What's like the number one go get for the Reign?
Yeah, I think when you look at the last season that they came off, you wonder how much of it was connected to maybe a little bit of an adjustment period for this franchise. That's a huge retirement in Megan Rapinoe, but the loss of a Rose Lavelle, the loss of an Emily Sonnet in free agency was something that I think maybe they were a little underprepared for, because to note what Darian said, there was some times and stretches of the season in their play where it just was lacking. There was never really that definitive player to kind of grab a game by the scruff of its neck and take it and run with it type of thing. And I would argue that maybe some of their midseason trades were not so much symbolic of like a white flag, but this was a very long struggle of a season for Seattle Reign. And maybe with the prospect of eventual new ownership coming in, some of their hands were tied as far as the type of moves that they could make, but they did make some. We saw a trade for Jalen Howell take place midseason. The signing of Norelia Montesir. These are players where I'm eager to see how they are going to fit into Seattle's scheme in 2025. What does a healthy Jalen Howell provide for a Seattle Reign that got bullied sometimes in the middle of the pitch. Maybe she's going to be that presence. And now you have a G that has an entire season under her belt of NWSL play. Will she be able to sort of recreate and reproduce a little bit of those magic moments that we saw throughout 2024, but do it in another season where maybe there are lessons that were learned here for Seattle as far as what they need to go get. They do have to get that kind of it factor player, but who is that player and what line are they going to be across? Are we talking an attacking line, the midfield? I think they could still use maybe another player, or even the back line at this point. I mean, Lauren Barnes is a staple for Seattle. Is this a player that finds herself in this stage of her career that will maybe try to give it one more go, with Seattle for another year? Or do they maybe take a look at that free agency list and see who they can maybe kind of bring into the fold? I'm curious that maybe Sam Hyatt is someone who went to a rival team in Portland Thorns, once played in Seattle, and maybe there were some windows open there for possibility, but now that's shut. So maybe they go for someone like a Kelly Hubley-Melly. I wonder if maybe they take a look at the back versus the front a little bit and maybe try to become a team that builds out a little bit more.
Ooh, it's funny. I think the opposite.
Ooh,
I think they need attackers. They need somebody. Imagine a Midge Purse, a Lynn Williams, a Sophia Smith at the front for Seattle. That would completely change. Whoops, watch my mic. It's been a minute. Yeah. Completely change the way that teams approach going into a game against them. If you don't have that, no team is looking at them and thinking, well, we really have to adjust how we're going to defend, how we're going to set up, who we're going to put on. We need to double down. We're going to leave this gap here, be vulnerable on this side. Seattle this year, there was no real consideration of it. Maybe sometimes with Ziara King. When she was on, she can be that player. But I think they need players that other teams really have to respect in the front and then build from there. Because you can make the game ugly by just bombing the ball forward and letting your forwards deal with it.
That's true. If you're
defending the whole game, what are you getting out of anybody else?
Grind away.
Yeah. And we saw that all year.
Yeah.
They have to change their game plan too, right? Unless they get a superstar forward, Darian. But who's available for them to get it domestically? I don't think there's anyone currently on the free agency list that is going to change the game for them. I think Midge Purse could add a lot as a free agent, but they are going to have to look outside the NWSL to get a player that is going to change everything in their front line for them. Because of the style that Seattle plays, they just weren't threatening enough with the players that they have, right? It was Band-Aids over bullet wounds, losing the big holes that Rapinoe, Sonnet, and Lavelle left this year. But when you look at this free agency list in the NWSL, is there anyone that you're like, they would do a great job? They would change up what Seattle is doing and they would make them a team to be scared of in 2024?
I kind of said who I thought already. I think Midge Purse is a really good one. I'm going through the list now.
So there's a couple.
I wish I was still playing. There's a lot.
I think Amira could be fun on this roster.
I don't.
Not enough?
No, I don't think so.
But
I don't think enough that would really have to change. That's a similar Heidema to me right now.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
They might have to go outside, what you alluded to, Lisa.
Yeah.
And Laura Harvey, and Gallimore, they're no strangers to looking outside and bringing someone in. I just wonder, like, maybe there was a little signaling there with getting Amon Desir into play. But again, how do these players that you've continue to acquire, are going to fit into whatever scheme you want to do in 2025? That's what it's about.
Claire Emsley, I think she could be a game changer. She plays in that 10 position. She plays on the front line. She's good at set pieces. Could be something.
If Seattle can't get an attacking player to change the game, and they were to bring someone in their midfield that was going to take control of the game, be a playmaker, and set all those forwards that are currently on the roster for Seattle up for success, is there anyone that comes to mind that could be a playmaker a little bit deeper, not necessarily be the out-and-out forward that's going to threaten you and cause chaos. Is there anyone right now in free agency in the NWSL that could change the game for Seattle deeper in the midfield?
Lisa, I feel like you might have someone.
I mean, just say it, Lisa. Say what the
Do you have anyone though?
Or is that the question where you're just like,
It's a question. I don't know.
No, another forward I thought of, Kristen Hamilton. I mean, for me, it's crazy to me she didn't play more for Kansas City this year.
That is crazy.
It's crazy. And when she has, I know Kristen as well, and when she has vengeance in her mind to go and score, she's going to score. She's a proven goal scorer. Seattle would be crazy to pass her up in this free agency window.
Lisa.
There's some of the other free agents that I wrote down: Midge Purse, Kristen Hamilton, Amira Ali, Lena Solano, the rookie out of Washington. She's not a superstar yet, but I think there's a lot of growth. Laura Harvey does a good job with younger players and helping them develop and step up to their next game. Danielle Colaprico is still a free agent.
Crazy.
Yeah.
San Diego would be wild to let her go.
Yeah, but Seattle would be great to get her.
San Diego needs
They need somebody. They need somebody.
San Diego needs
They need somebody to keep that ball. Keep that ball, win that ball, and keep that ball. And
that would be such a terrible move to let Danny Colaprico go. I hope she's negotiating right now with San Diego for some cash money because they need her.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Sandra, you were about to say something. I cut you off.
I know you and I are both big fans of this player. And you were talking about the midfield specifically. Do you think Narumi is someone who could find their way to Seattle from North Carolina?
Ooh. Narumi NG?
I don't think North Carolina is going to let her go.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't, but I mean,
it would be silly to let her go.
Yeah. Well,
that's a good shout. Yeah, Narumi and G in the midfield. Ooh,
that'd be insane.
That would be really fun. Oh, we'll see. Seattle has a lot to bulk up before the preseason starts in January. It sounds like they need to look outside of the NWSL, bring in some internationals, but that also takes time, right? There was a little bit of time for Mondesir to get into the game. G ultimately was such a game changer, but it's a big adjustment to come into this league. Laura Harvey has a big task ahead of her at Seattle. We'll see. There's a lot of offseason still to come and more teams. We're hitting every single team in the NWSL and talking what they need to improve throughout this series and throughout the offseason. So stick around for it.